The moon is not what you think it is. You have looked at it your whole life. A pale, quiet, dependable thing hanging in the dark. You think you understand it, you do not. Because in 1969, when NASA deliberately crashed a piece of spacecraft into its surface, the moon did something a dead rock is not supposed to do. It rang. Not a thud, not a crack, and then silence. It rang like a struck bell, and the vibrations kept going for nearly an hour. And ever since that moment, a question has refused to die. What exactly are we looking at when we look at the moon? Here is what actually happened. During the Apollo 12 mission, astronauts left part of their lunar module behind, and controllers sent it slamming into the surface at thousands of kilometers per hour. Seismometers the astronauts had planted picked up the impact. And instead of a sharp jolt that faded fast the way it would on Earth, the signal swelled, held, and slowly tapered off over something close to 55 minutes. The scientists watching the data were stunned. One of them said the moon rang like a bell. That phrase escaped into the world and never came back. Because if a body rings, the most natural thing to wonder is whether the body is hollow. Before we go deeper, do me a favor. If you are the kind of person who looks up at the night sky and feels like there is more going on up there than you have been told, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where in the world you are watching from right now. I genuinely read them. And here is the question I want you arguing about down there before this video is over. If we ever found proof that something out in space was not natural, not formed by chance, but built, would the people in charge actually tell us? Sit with that one. Now, let me show you why the moon, of all places, is where that question refuses to stay buried. Start with the ring itself, because it is real and it is strange. When you strike a normal solid object, the energy passes through it and dies quickly. The material absorbs it. Tap a brick, and you get a dull, short sound. The moon does not behave like a brick. When that module hit, the seismic waves did not pass cleanly through and fade. They bounced, they scattered, they echoed around inside the upper layers of the moon for the better part of an hour. And it was not a one-time fluke. Apollo 13's spent rocket stage was steered into the moon on purpose, a far bigger impact, and the moon rang again, this time for hours. The astronauts kept doing it across missions, and every single time the same thing happened. The moon took a hit and would not stop vibrating. Now, the people who study this for a living have an explanation, and you deserve to hear it straight, because the real answer is almost stranger than the myth. The moon is bone dry. It has no water locked into its rock the way Earth does. It has no real atmosphere, no oceans, none of the things that on our planet soak up seismic energy and kill a vibration fast. And the outer layers of the moon are shattered, fractured into rubble by 4 billion years of relentless impacts with nothing to heal them. So when a wave enters that dry, broken crust, it does not travel in a clean line. It ricochets off millions of cracks, scattering in every direction, taking forever to die out. That is why the moon rings. Not because it is empty, because it is dry, cracked, and dead in a way nothing on Earth ever gets to be, which raises its own unsettling thought. The ringing is not proof of a secret. It is proof of just how alien this place really is, right next door the whole time. But the ring is only the first thing that does not sit right. Look at the moon's size. It is unreasonably large. Most moons in the solar system are tiny specks compared to the planets they orbit. Ours is more than a quarter the width of Earth. Nothing else in the inner solar system has a companion that big relative to itself. And here is the coincidence that has spooked people for centuries. The moon is about 400 times smaller than the sun, and it also happens to sit about 400 times closer to us. Which means, from where you are standing, the moon and the sun look almost exactly the same size in the sky. That is the only reason total solar eclipses exist the way they do. The moon sliding perfectly over the sun, blotting it out, leaving just the burning halo of the corona. No other planet we know of gets a show like that, and it is, as far as we can tell, pure chance. A coincidence of distance and size with no deeper reason behind it, or so we keep telling ourselves. Then there are the rocks. When Apollo astronauts brought lunar samples home, scientists expected them to look like leftover debris, younger than Earth, chemically different, the scraps of something that formed nearby and got captured. That is not what they found. Some lunar rocks turned out to be staggeringly old, older than almost anything we have found on Earth, dating back well over 4 billion years, close to the birth of the solar system itself. And the chemistry was the real shock. The oxygen in moon rocks matches the oxygen in Earth rocks almost perfectly, same fingerprint, as if the moon and the Earth were made from the very same material. That single fact is one of the strongest clues we have to where the moon came from, and it points to something violent. The leading theory is that a Mars-sized world smashed into the young Earth, and the debris flung into orbit eventually clumped together into the moon. Which means the moon may literally be a piece of the Earth, blasted off and reassembled in the sky, stranger than hollow, and true. Now, go beneath the surface, because this is where it gets genuinely eerie. Those seismometers the astronauts left behind kept listening for years, and they picked up moonquakes, not many big ones, but a steady pattern of them. And when scientists traced how the waves move through the interior, they found that the moon is layered. There is a crust, then a thick mantle, and the waves change speed as they pass through, which tells you the material down there changes. Deep inside, near the boundary between the mantle and the core, the waves go soft and sluggish, the signature of rock that is partially molten. Hot, still hot, after 4.5 billion years. A body that small should have cooled into a cold, dead stone ages ago. Something down there is keeping a layer of the moon's deep interior warm enough to be slushy, and we are not entirely sure what. And then there are the mascons. This one is real, it has a real name, and it is one of the most genuinely bizarre things about the moon. Mascon is short for mass concentration. Back in the late 1960s, as we were tracking spacecraft orbiting the moon, engineers noticed the probes kept getting tugged off course, dipping slightly as they passed over certain regions, as if something heavy was buried there pulling at them. They mapped these gravity spikes, and the pattern was uncanny. The biggest mascons sit directly beneath the Great Circular Basins, the enormous craters left by ancient impacts. Buried under those scars, lurking below the surface, are slabs of dense, heavy material massive enough to bend the path of anything that flies over them. When you first hear that, your mind does exactly what the hollow moon believers want it to do. Heavy masses, precisely positioned beneath specific points on the surface. That sounds like design. That sounds like something was placed there. But again, the truth is wilder than the conspiracy. Those dense masses are most likely the remains of the very objects that punched the craters. The metal-rich cores of gigantic asteroids still lodged in the moon where they struck, plus dense mantle rock that welled up to fill the wound. They are positioned beneath the basins not because someone put them there, but because they are the wreckage that made the basins. The moon is wearing the bullets that hit it, frozen in place for 4 billion years, heavy enough that we can feel them from orbit. Not architecture, ammunition. So let me put you down there for a moment. Imagine you could descend into the moon. You step off the gray, dusty surface and the light vanishes almost instantly because there is no air to scatter it, no glow, just hard black. You sink past the shattered outer crust, that fractured rubble that makes the whole place ring. The rock around you stops looking like the cratered moon, and starts looking strange, smoothed by pressure, dense, unfamiliar. You pass the boundary where the seismic waves change speed, a real frontier deep inside a real world. And below that, the rock grows warm, then soft, the partial melt that should not still be there. No chambers, no corridors, no carved walls. But a place so utterly unlike anywhere a human could ever stand that your instincts would scream that something is wrong, even though what is wrong is simply that you are inside another world and it was never built for you. There is more in the archives, and this is the part the hollow moon believers love most. The Apollo missions did not just plant one seismometer and leave, they built a network. Between 1969 and 1977, astronauts set up instruments at 5 different landing sites, and those machines kept transmitting data back to Earth for years after the last crew went home. They recorded thousands of moonquakes, and buried in that mountain of data, scientists found something that genuinely surprised them. The moon has at least 4 different kinds of quakes. There are deep ones, far down near the core, that pulse in rhythm with the tides as the moon is squeezed and stretched by Earth's gravity. There are shallow ones, much closer to the surface, that are sharp and violent and can last for 10 minutes or more. There are tiny tremors from meteorite strikes, and there are thermal quakes, the crust cracking as it heats in the long lunar day and freezes in the 2-week night. 4 separate kinds of shaking in a world we call dead. The deep ones are the ones that fuel the legend because they repeat. They come back again and again from the same spots deep inside the moon, locked to the orbit, almost like clockwork. To someone hunting for a hidden machine, a signal that repeats on a schedule sounds like a heartbeat. It sounds like something running down there. But the real explanation is gravity, plain, and relentless. As the moon swings around the Earth on its slightly stretched orbit, the pull on it rises and falls, flexing the deep rock. And at certain weak points, that flexing cracks the same fault over and over. It is not a heartbeat. It is the tide grinding the inside of the moon on a monthly cycle that has not stopped in billions of years. Still, sit with that image for a second. Every month, silently, the inside of the moon shifts and settles in time with its dance around us. The thing is more alive, mechanically, than the dead rock you were promised. That feeling that the moon is empty but somehow not alone is exactly what the surface keeps feeding. For centuries, observers with telescopes have reported strange things on the moon. Brief flashes of light, faint glows that appear and vanish, patches that seem to change color or haze over for a few minutes and then clear. They have a name, transient lunar phenomena, and they are not all imagination, because some have been captured on camera and confirmed. Astronomers think most are caused by meteorite impacts flashing as they hit, or by puffs of gas escaping from beneath the surface, or by sunlight catching electrically charged dust lifted off the ground. But here is the part that keeps people up at night. Some of these events keep happening in the same spots, the same craters, over and over across decades. Random impacts should be scattered everywhere. A pattern that repeats in one location feels like it means something. We do not fully know what. And while we are talking about things on the surface that refuse to make sense, look at the lines. Under certain angles of sunlight, parts of the moon show edges and ridges and straight features that look almost too regular, too sharp. And people have argued for years over whether they are tricks of light and shadow or something more. The honest answer is that shadows on an airless world fall hard and strange, with no softening, no atmosphere to blur them, so a perfectly natural ridge can look carved when the sun hits it at a low angle. Most of these features are exactly that, geology lit cruelly, but the fact that the moon can look engineered again and again from so many angles tells you something about the place. It sits right at the edge of what looks natural and what looks made, and it has been sitting on that edge, taunting us for as long as we have had the lenses to stare. So, pull it all together, the way the hollow moon idea wants you to. A body that rings when you strike it. A size and a distance so perfect they hand us flawless eclipses, rocks older than they should be. A deep interior, still warm after billions of years. Heavy masses buried at precise points beneath the surface, repeating flashes in the same craters, lines that look like architecture. Each one alone is a question. Stacked on top of each other, they start to feel like a pattern, and the human brain is built to see a pattern as a message, a sender, a purpose. That is the seduction of the hollow moon. It takes a pile of real anomalies and whispers that together they must mean the moon was made. And here is where I have to be straight with you, because you deserve the truth, and the truth is better than the myth. The moon is not hollow. We know its mass, we know its size, and we know how dense it is, and a hollow shell simply could not hold itself together under its own gravity. It would collapse. The ringing is dryness and fracturing, not emptiness. The mascons are buried wreckage, not placed machinery. The strange rocks are pieces of a shattered young Earth. The warm interior is the slow, fading heat of a world still cooling. Every single anomaly has an explanation rooted in real physics, real impacts, real chemistry. There is no chamber, there is no engine. There is no one down there. But notice what that leaves you with. Not a comfortable gray rock, something far stranger. A world that may be a fragment of our own planet, flung into the sky by a collision so violent it nearly destroyed the Earth. A world so dry and so broken that it rings for an hour when you tap it. A world still warm at its heart after 4.5 billion years, wearing the metal cores of dead asteroids buried beneath its scars, flashing and glowing in ways we have watched for centuries and still cannot fully name. The moon does not need to be engineered to be astonishing. The real answer is weirder than the legend, and it has the advantage of being true. We have stared at this thing every night of our entire history. We have written it into every myth, set our calendars by it, sent 12 people to walk on it, and we still cannot fully explain why it rings, why it sits at exactly the right distance to swallow the sun, why parts of its interior refuse to go cold. We told ourselves we understood the moon a long time ago. We were wrong then, and the truth is, the more carefully we listen to it, the more it sounds like a world still waiting to be understood. Not hollow, not built. Just far, far stranger than the quiet face we thought we knew. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.